Hi, I'm Kaylee Collier, and this is Planning Enrichment in Under 30 Minutes. 3 questions to easily enrich everyday learning, whether you're a teacher or a parent. First of all, I want to say I am thrilled that you're here, that you're watching this, and I'm here to help you in any way that I can. So I want you to feel like you can easily enrich learning for your students or for your children. So what does that look like? It looks like quick and fun activities that challenge kids. It looks like simple solutions for higher thinkers. And it looks like sparking your creativity as much as your students, because it's not always all about them. We have to love teaching too, right? So why I love gifted minds? Well, it's simple. I see myself in my kids. I was a gifted student, and I just find myself connected to those students so deeply. And I think a lot of teachers feel this. You gravitate toward the students that you see a reflection of yourself in. So for teachers who struggled with math when they were kids, they might feel really connected to their students who struggle with math. For me, it's the gifted kids. Plus, giftedness is specialized education, and I'm so passionate about people understanding that. They don't have an IEP or 504 that says they're gifted and this is what we have to do for them, but we are required by law to provide them gifted services. And in some states, that's pull out. In some states, that's push in. It doesn't matter what the program looks like. What matters is that our students who are identified as gifted are feeling like they're being served as gifted kids. So there's 6 types of giftedness, and this is why it's so important that we are serving these students. There's successful gifted kids. These are the quintessential great kids. They're gifted, they're high achieving, they're bored, but they're not going to act out in class. They're not going to speak up and be rude. These are also very rare. My personal favorite is the challenging gifted child. These are the students who are divergent, and they're the ones that keep me on my toes. They ask me questions, and they question what I say and what I do. And I love that back and forth because I know they're engaged and we're both learning. There's also underground gifted students, and we see this a lot with middle school girls who are trying to just fit in with their friends. So often, underground kids will hide their talents. They don't want to stand out. Twice exceptional students, it's so important that we are reaching twice exceptional students. These are students who are gifted, but they also have an IEP or a 504. Maybe they're diagnosed with autism or severe anxiety or ADHD. It doesn't matter what their additional diagnosis is. They are gifted, and so they need to be served as a gifted child. Dropouts are students who are very angry with the system. They feel like the system failed them. We see this a lot with high school kids who don't feel like they can amount to anything and they just drop out, even though we can see a lot of potential in them. And then finally, we have autonomous gifted students. These are very rare because they're the kids who are self-motivated, self-driven. They have high expectations, and they can just take whatever it is you're giving them and run with it full blast. So why do we plan for enrichment? Well, first we need to talk about some myths surrounding gifted students. Myth number 1 is they don't need extra help or support, and that's just not true. Any child can have educational gaps, and by planning enrichment, we can help fill those gaps and build their confidence. Myth number 2, they're not going to be a behavior issue. That is not true. Gifted students come with their own set of unique behaviors. So by planning for enrichment, we can manage and address and prevent behaviors. Myth number 3 is the one that just really grates on my nerves. They can help struggling students. I hate this one. Gifted students should not be the second teacher for their peers. And often using that as your differentiation for gifted students can cause resentment between the gifted child and the child that's getting extra help. So when we plan for enrichment, We're actually supporting their independence of both the gifted students and your average or low achieving students. All students benefit from planning enrichment. And then finally, myth 4, they can figure out answers on their own. That's not true. They're still children. So they still need to be taught. Gifted students need direct instruction. So this is the perfect time to pull a small group and work together on higher level activities and tasks. So there are 3 steps to easily enriching learning. You're going to find a skill, a source, and a connection. So the skill is the standard, the topic, what you want the students to know. The source is what you're going to use to facilitate the lesson. Is it a text, audio, video? And then the connection is real world connections. If the students don't feel like there's a point to it, they're not going to be involved. So if we can connect to another standard and connect to real life, real world situations, then we can get them to buy in. So we have a pathway. So on one side of the pathway, we can give topics. And this is where you use a standard and you pick out what you want the students to know. So you're giving them a limited choice on research or investigation. And then the students get to pick how they want to show their thinking. On the other side of the pathway is giving product ideas. So here we're going to use a standard to give a limited choice of what students must create: an essay, a blog post, a visual, and then the kids get to decide what they want to research and look up further. So what is the focus skill? The focus skill is the standard, the topic, or the information students need to know. So here is a great way to find that skill. Look at the verbs in your standard. So I've given you an example from a 5th grade ELA standard where students need to compare and contrast 2 or more characters, settings, or events. Here the verb is compare and contrast. That is what I want my students to do. So that is my verb. That's going to be our focus skill. You could also pull out a focus skill of identifying characters, settings, and events. Or a focus skill could be looking at specific details to support what you're saying. Once you have your skill, then we need to find the source. We need to find something to support your teaching and student learning. So here you could find a text. I love mentor texts, especially picture books, because they're quick and easy to read and process, but they're filled with so much awesome information. You could find an audio source like a podcast, or use a video, TED Talks, YouTube videos. So again, looking at our standard, I've chosen the mentor text, "Thank you, Mr. Falker," and then I can supplement it with a video interview from the author, Patricia Polacco, as she talks about the real Mr. Falker. So how are we going to connect all of this? Well, you can connect to another standard, or you can connect to real world situations. So I've chosen to connect to another standard, and I've listed a couple of others that would work well. So we could explain how a series of chapters or scenes or books, we could choose all Patricia Polacco books and find how they're all connected. Or students could write a narrative. Patricia Polacco's book, "Thank You, Mr. Falker," is a personal narrative. This is a great mentor text for teaching students how to write their own personal narrative. So there's a lot of options when it comes to standard-based enrichment. So if you think of the pathway, and that's where you start by choosing your standard and then deciding which way on the path you want to go, the next thing you need to do after you've gotten your standard is find the skill, the source, and the connection. So here, students can compare and contrast characters, settings, or events. They can explain how the scenes and "Thank You, Mr. Falker" fit together. And then they can write a narrative using Polacco's writing as a mentor. So how would this look in the classroom? This could look like them finding ways to organize their own narrative writing. This could look like creating a storyboard with scenes from the book and then explaining how they would recreate them as a TV show or a movie. This could be students noting key points and then organizing their own personal narrative in a similar way. So these are all great options for enriching with just one standard and 3 quick ways to put that standard to use. So now it's your turn. Pause the video, take some time to brainstorm what and how you'll enrich student learning in the next month. So think about the entire month coming up. Think about 3 skills and keep them pretty specific. You may have a big standard to cover, but there's usually 1 or 2 specific skills within that standard. For our example, it was comparing and contrasting. So think of 3 skills that students need to learn. And then think of 3 sources you could use to support each of those skills. And then finally, what are 3 ways that you can connect this learning to other content areas or to the student's life? So there's a lot of choice within planning enrichment. For me, I find it easiest to draw a web. So once you plan your enrichment, then you get to cheer, because then you get to watch your students accelerate, be excited, and engaged in what they're learning. 3 goals for the next month. So whether you are a teacher in the classroom, a teacher virtually, a teacher that's homeschooling, a parent that's homeschooling, a parent that wants to enrich what their students are learning at school, we still need to set some goals. So first, I want you to create a strategy. Look at what you've just planned out, what you've brainstormed, and think of another way to get your gifted kids engaged and excited. If you're in the classroom, this is a great time to pull a small group and work in a very small setting with higher level text, and even ask your students for feedback of what they would want to try. Then trade an idea with a partner. I love when teachers get to collaborate, and I would love to collaborate with you. So if you have ideas for me, please let me know. Choose a strategy that you tried and then trade it with a peer. Ask a teacher down the hall or even in another grade level what they're doing and what works. Offer up some of the things that work great in your classroom. Teaching is a team effort. So when we work together, everybody benefits. And then finally, write a question. This could be a question that you want to look up. This could be a question that you want to ask somebody at school. This could be a question that you want to ask me. Reflect on what you've tried, and then what is one thing that you need clarity on or something that you're unsure of. Find somebody to ask and get an answer to that question. So I greatly appreciate you taking the time to complete this workshop. I'm here to help you easily enrich everyday learning, whether you're a teacher or a parent, in school, virtually, small groups. I'm here for you. Please email me, Kaylee at Inspire Teach Grow, or direct message me on Instagram. That's where I hang out a lot, and I love getting direct messages. Would love to hear from you. Let's collaborate. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you are looking forward to trying in your classroom or at home with your personal children. Let me know what you are unsure about. Just leave a comment. Let's start a conversation. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you like this type of video.